All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another incredible Monday where we're going to have E2E, expert to experts, the only show that allows you and enables you to get in touch with the world's best experts. So we bring you the world's best experts, and today I'm excited. Today, get ready, fasten your seatbelts because we are going to fly directly in Canada. The guest speaker of today is an incredible soul, an incredible business owner, an incredible entrepreneur, and I'm fascinated by his story. Listen, the news and the media define him as the modern Napoleon Hill. Okay, how many of you drop down in the comments and tell me how many of you know who Napoleon Hill is? Napoleon Hill was an amazing soul, and he interviewed the top best minds of that time, and then he put everything in an amazing book, which is Think and Grow Rich. So Douglas, at the age of 19, he started to interview the best business and entrepreneurs, the best leaders, okay, in business, and the best minds who created those empires and companies that still today are there thriving and generating billions of revenue. And you're going to be blown completely by the knowledge and the wisdom of this amazing soul. So I don't want to spend too much time by me talking. Let's do one thing. Drop down in the comments and tell me which part of the world are you watching us right now? Which part of the country? If you're in UK, where are you right now? And where are you connected? And where are you watching us right now? And if you're watching us live, put hashtag live, or if you're watching the recording and you're watching it later, drop all this in the comments and put recording so we know how to serve you in the best way. And if you've got any question you want to ask Douglas, write it down in the comments. We will make sure that he gets to answer it to you. So I'm so excited right now to introduce him. And by the way, he has a media background, and he's also a producer of the 4 major movies of self-development currently right now. So this is the type of person you're going to have right now, this interview, and the network, the people that he's in touch and he's in connection with, it's completely out of this world. It's out of this earth. So get ready, fasten your seatbelts. Let's go to Canada and let's give a wonderful, warm welcome to our guest. So let me have some drum bass. Come on. Ladies and gentlemen, directly from Canada, Mr. Douglas Vermeeren. Oh, there you go. Hello, Douglas.
Hey,
how
Moses.
are you?
Thank you for that super awesome, enthusiastic introduction. That's excellent. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Glad to see you right now here in our show. For those of you who don't know, I met Douglas the first time in 2018 in an event in London where he was sharing the stage and speaking on the stage together with Gary Vee and many other speakers. And already the touch and the way of communicating and his style really caught me up. And right now, after almost 3 years, here we are together, and we're going to have this amazing interview right now. So Douglas, where do we start? So tell us, how come the media and newspapers and news media call you the Napoleon Hill, the modern Napoleon Hill? When did you do your first interview, and when did this journey of interviewing the best minds and the best business owners start?
Well, that's actually a really fun story. The long and short of it, without making it too long, is I came from a family that was kind of broke, right? Like my family had no money. My dad worked in construction. My mom babysat kids. We were stuck literally in the rat race. That's kind of what I learned, right? That go get a job, do good in school, and that didn't work. And so I was actually in California at the time, and I was selling pest control, for bugs, creepy crawlies. I was selling pest control door to door as a door-to-door salesperson, and it was not going good. So I had a friend actually give me 2 books. He gave me How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And then he also gave me Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And I enjoyed them both. This was really my first experience with any kind of personal development or anything like that at all. And I have to admit, it changed my thinking, but not in the way that you might think. In fact, when I read Think and Grow Rich, I actually was inspired, but I actually was more jealous than inspired. Because I read that Napoleon Hill had met all these incredible people like Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, the Rockefellers, the Wrigleys, like all of these people. And I thought, wow, that must be cool to be friends with those kind of people. And then somebody told me this idea that you become like the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I looked around and realized that my friends at the time were not people like Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, the Rockefeller. They were not. And so I decided I needed to start leveling up who I was connecting with. And so I kind of decided at that young age to start my mission of going out and learning from these top achievers, but not just learning from them. I wanted to become their friends. And so that's kind of how it began. And I started obviously with, successful people I could find wherever I could. But eventually I ended up getting to some of the biggest names in the world, people who were like the founders or co-founders or CEOs or high-level leaders for companies like FedEx, Nike, Reebok, the Avita Group, Christian Dior, Jordache Jeans, Hugo Boss, Expedia, Uber, Ugg Boots, Ted Baker. The list goes on and on and on and on. And the thing that's interesting is success is, how do we say, it's kind of like COVID. It's highly contagious. Right?
Well, do you know what? I want to be positive with that type of virus.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so I found by hanging around with these people that had started multi-million-dollar or billion-dollar businesses that I started to think a little differently. And I started to look at things differently. And at that young age, I decided I wanted to be a business person. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And so with these guys as friends, I started my first company at the age of 19. And very soon I was able to take that to $1.6 million, which was just awesome. So that's the story. And I didn't even intend to be a speaker, by the way. I had no idea or interest or anything. I didn't even know this was an industry. But kind of what happened is, as I was interviewing these top achievers, I had this guy come up to me once and say, "I heard you just interviewed Richard Branson." And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Would you come to our group and tell us a little bit about what he said?" And so I was like, "Sure." And I didn't know. I thought it'd just be like a handful of people around a little table, and maybe, they'd ask a couple questions and I'd tell them what I'd kind of written in my notebooks and stuff. And when I got there, there was about 300 people. I was like, oh my gosh. And so I just took the mic and said, "Well, what do you guys want to know?" And it was really kind of a Q&A. And as we began to talk, then these guys became impressed that not only did I get to guys like Richard Branson, but I'd gotten to guys like Mark Cuban, and I'd gotten to, all these other top business leaders. And so the discussion went on for a long time with lots of cool stuff. And at the end, I had a handful of people come up and say, "Could you come speak to our group too?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know what that means." Actually, the funniest question, one of them asked me, "What do you charge to speak?" I didn't know people got paid to speak. So I was like, so immediately, actually, I got on the phone, and one of my mentors at the time was a guy named Frank McGuire. Frank was actually one of the co-founders of Federal Express. He was also the former VP of marketing for KFC and American Airlines. He was in the White House serving with JFK. He got him elected, in fact, and Lyndon B. Johnson. In fact, he was also the personal philosophy teacher of Marilyn Monroe. So Frank was like one of my grandpas, right? And so I said, "These guys are asking me to speak. Like, what should I do?" And he taught me how to build a business out of speaking and training, which was kind of cool because I'd never known that was a career possibility.
Wow, amazing. So right now we've got Lily from Bulgaria, and she's writing down, "Success is highly contagious." Love it. Amazing. Keep on dropping down the comments. We're going to show them to Douglas. Drop down your comments. Let's make this interview an interview which is, you are part of it, okay? You are part of being here with the expert. Now, one of the things that really impressed me as a coach, and as a coach that I help businesses, and I help businesses mainly to get into improving their performance, especially when it comes to sales and scaling up, there's something that kind of triggered me in a positive way. And I said, when I get him, I need to ask him that question.
Sure.
You said one day that networking is not sales.
Well, we can talk a lot about that. Here's something that everybody says. They say your network equals your net worth. Mm-hmm. The reality is before it can become your net worth must become your safety net. Now, let me share you an interesting story. And by the way, hi to Lily and Milan. I see you just put that in Totka, of course. But here's something interesting, okay? So when I was first starting my first business, I had a really peculiar experience. I wanted to become a multimillionaire. I wanted to start a business. And you know the idea, they say, take a millionaire to lunch. So I knew a lot of millionaires at the time. So I decided I'm going to take one of them to lunch. I'm going to ask him about my business, right? And so I sat him down and I started saying, how can I find more customers? How can I get the marketing correct? How can I find somebody to help me with distribution? How can I, et cetera, right? And I'll never forget. He just kind of stopped and he looked at me and he goes, I can tell you're going to start a really small company. I said, well, what do you mean? Like that's no business owner wants to hear that, right? I'm going to start.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's totally rude. Why are you telling me this? And he just kind of looked at me again and goes, oh no, you're going to start a small company. And by then I was a little bit hurt and offended. Remember, I'm 19, right? So I still had this teenage mind of the world is mine. And,
so you got triggered and you wanted to
I did. So I said to him, I said, what do you mean I'm going to create a small company? How can you say that to me? Like, don't you know I got big dreams? The world is mine. I got a great idea. Why are you saying this is going to be a small company? And he said to me, well, because you're asking selfish questions.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, what does that mean, a selfish question? He says, you're asking, where will I find my customers? How will I do my marketing? How will I? He says, if you want to create a big company, you need to shift that question to who. So in other words, not how can I find my customers, but who has my customers? Who can help me with my marketing that understands it better than me? Who can help me with the distribution part? You see, the thing with most entrepreneurs that we coach through our entrepreneur program, they don't understand that there's a significant difference between being a solopreneur or self-employed or a business owner. The reality is most people who are solopreneurs and self-employed and business owners, they're trying to do too many things. And they also don't understand that, you know, you've only got limited time and energy. So there was a study done a while ago that said a solopreneur can only effectively serve 5 people. You've only got that much time to really help somebody to do, 5 people you can help. And when you get number 6, everybody suffers. And so the thing that I learned as a young entrepreneur, if you want to grow your business to high levels, you almost need to think of yourself like a conductor for the orchestra, right? If you tried to hop off the podium and play every instrument, you jump over to the piano, you jump over to the tuba, you jump over to the cello, that song is going to suck. But if you understand your job as an entrepreneur is actually to assemble the best people you can find, and your job is simply to be a director, a conductor, then you've got great music. It's kind of like what Steve Jobs once said. He said, we don't hire smart people and tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do. And that's really what the job of an entrepreneur is. Now, it's interesting that you talk about this idea of network as well. The reality is there's a lot of so-called gurus that are out there right now saying that the highest value skill that any business owner can have is to learn how to sell. That's where you come up with that idea. Or to sell high ticket closing, or to close, that's the highest value skill. Sorry, guys, it's not. The highest value skill that you can possibly develop in business is learning how to create and maintain high-level relationships. Because when you have high-level relationships, that's what, again, your network becomes your safety net. You can solve a higher level of problems. You also have now support in different areas. Opportunities will come to you in different areas. In fact, it's really kind of funny that some of the biggest business deals, money-wise, that I've ever done have been shown to me by people in my network, right? They've been open. Those doors have been opened to me by these kinds of people. So this idea of network it is the beginning of all good things. In fact, I'm writing a book right now that will be published later this year on the principle of leverage. And everybody always talks about OPM, other people's money, right? But the first law of entrepreneurship is leverage, but it's with relationships, right? That's who our team is, our team supreme. We can never, ever scale or get larger until we have the right people supporting that system that we create. That's what allows duplication. And I might also mention, we don't often think of this, but our customer is part of our network. In fact, it's the most important part. And if we have a low level of customer, we're going to have a low level of business. But if we have a customer that is at a higher level, people that we select and that we carefully nurture and work with, it becomes higher. In fact, write this down. You'll never do $1 million deal at a $10 breakfast. So if you're committing time to spending time among these low-level things, trying to pick up the scraps, you're going to have a really hard time scaling a business to a high level. It's just the way it is. You need that higher network to do that.
That's so powerful. That's so powerful, because normally you have explained it such an easy way and such direct. Because normally we always say, oh, if you hang up with 5 broke people, you'll be the 6th one.
Yeah, you hang up with 5, you're the 5th. That's it.
Yeah. But the way you made it was really powerful. And I love what you said about that an entrepreneur is somebody who is conducting an orchestra.
Yes.
Because sometimes when, most of our people who are watching us right now are business owners, or they are overachievers. An overachiever says, okay, get away on the way. Let me do it because I know how to do it better than anybody else. And as you said, this is not the right mindset if you want to have, you want to be an entrepreneur.
There's two other sayings that I think are really interesting. One of them is, if you're a cog in the wheel, you're a clog in the wheel. And it's just that. And so if you're really serious about being an entrepreneur and scaling your business, you need to find a way to remove yourself from it. And when I'm working with entrepreneurs around the world in the programs that we do, I find that entrepreneurs have many reasons why they start. Freedom is generally one of them, which means financial freedom, time freedom, location freedom, all of these things, right? But if you're attached to it, you can't ever create that, right? It's kind of like the thing that's also interesting. I look at like music. If you were to take an album, say from Michael Jackson, everybody knows him, and you see his name is on the cover, he's obviously the guy getting paid the most. But if you open and look at the liner notes, like the notes of who did the instruments, who was the studio engineer, who wrote the songs, his name is rarely found among those names, right? And so I think as entrepreneurs, we need to understand that the guy who receives the Academy Award is not the guy who's running the camera or doing the makeup, writing the script. You are the guy being recognized, but you don't have to do all the heavy lifting. Now, here's the other thing that I think is startling. When I went out and I interviewed the 400 of the world's top achievers, I found so many things that are currently taught in personal development that are just wrong, totally wrong. And one of them is, you heard that saying that says, if it's meant to be, it's up to me, right? Well, the reality is it does start with you. You're the beginning of it. But if it's meant to be, it's actually up to a team, right? All wealth, all success is created by teams. And most people never realize that. Just a commentary.
No problem. We've got Milan. So give it just a quick break if you need to get a glass of water. We've got Milan from Malta. Hello, Milan. Glad to see you. Glad that you're here with us. So you're from Malta. You're very welcome in our show. And hope you and your family are all doing great. Then we've got also Totka giving us a reminder, which was so powerful what you said. You will never make $1 million deal on a $10 breakfast. This is so powerful. And then Lily is there reminding and saying how powerful and simply explained at the same moment. Wow, amazing. Thank you for that. Thank you, guys. Keep on writing down, keep on putting more comments, keep on writing it. And talking about entrepreneur, which is your passion. I mean, since 19, you have been always in this environment and dealing with the best minds. Obviously, some of the entrepreneurs you interviewed have changed the course of history. I mean, FedEx, KFC, Reebok, Nike, all these companies that you had a chance to be attached and relate to changed courses of history. So what relationship is there between entrepreneur and influence?
Wow. That's actually kind of an interesting question, because I've had this discussion with a lot of, these top entrepreneurs. And I think something that is maybe incorrect that's understood in today's society. Everybody thinks that being an influencer means how many people subscribe to me or follow me or like or post or share. And the reality is that doesn't necessarily translate into customer. So I think this idea of being an entrepreneur of influence, by the way, I might mention, isn't necessarily about how many likes and subscribes you get. It's by who the likes and subscribes are. And I'm also going to suggest that it's not always the quantity, but certainly the quality. Just as an example, if you went to follow my Instagram right now, I think I've got less than 10,000 people following me. But the reality is as a passive income earner, last year in 2020, we did over $14 million in passive income, right? And that means no job, no connection to me being involved. So I think this idea of influencer, maybe another example too to share, which is kind of interesting, is I did a mastermind one time in London, in your backyard, and we had 6 people show up. 6 people. You know, what's funny is my biggest event was 17,000 that I've spoken at. But in that little room of 6 people, I actually made more money, right? In fact, we sold a masterclass that we ended up doing, each person paid 250,000 British pounds, right? Times 6. And if you think about it, again, it's just a clear illustration that we need to focus on serving the right people, not serving everybody. Now, by the way, there's something, maybe we'll talk about this when we come back to do the masterclass with you. But one thing that I think a lot of entrepreneurs miss is that they do focus on quantity. They focused on a ton of people. But the reality is there is a principle called math and diamonds. This is a diamond. Sorry about the art. But math are the things that we often create that are low cost, that allow people to come in, maybe experiment with us and see kind of who we are and what we do and get a feel for what we offer. But there are always people that are prepared to fast track with every product. In fact, if you look at it, for example, Hugo Boss, that was one of the companies that I also did some work with and interviewed. Hugo Boss has a line that you can find at the lower stores that's generally a mass-produced t-shirt with the Hugo Boss logos. You can find their running shoes, Hugo Boss, and some of those things everywhere. Even inside various shopping stores, they have smaller boutique stores, etc. But they also have a very, very high-end part of their brand, which is directed towards professional athletes, celebrities, people that are of a higher net worth. And it's just a completely different product line, but it's under the same name. And so I think it's important that we also look at in our business, you know, yeah, we have stuff for people coming in, but we also have stuff for those at the high fast track. And by the way, one of the things I find a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with is they don't really know their numbers. If you know what your numbers are in the long term of who is in your diamonds and who's in your math and how many people will graduate from your math to your diamonds, for me, it's generally 1 in 27. 1 in 27 people that join me is math become a diamond. Right? So what that means now is I can actually calculate my COCA, my cost of customer acquisition. So I now know how much I can invest to help people on the math level come into, let's call it my funnel or my experience. Because now when I know what the numbers are, I know that eventually 1 in 27 of those people will become somebody that, for example, pays me 250,000 each year, right? So we really need to understand those kinds of things to be able to make effective business decisions in the marketplace. And like I said, we'll talk more about that when we get into the masterclass.
Yeah. So
yeah, sure.
Basically, you have anticipated what you're going to do, what we discuss together. So
forecasting, right? Right? Any business that doesn't understand how to forecast is doomed to failure.
That's really powerful. So just to let you know, on Thursday, same time, UK time, Douglas is going to do a dedicated workshop where he's going to go deep in one of the topics which will come out most relevant today, or any type of question that you can ask on Thursday, because Thursday is workshop and a small little Q&A. So make sure that you tune in.
We'll give some free gifts away too. We'll give some free stuff away too. Why not?
Wow. Okay. This
nothing for sale, free stuff.
Amazing. So free gifts for those who join on Thursday. So make sure Thursday you are there live, and make sure Thursday you can right now click on the button. Wherever you're watching us, click on the button, share it, spread this, because you are one button away from helping a friend, a relative to have awareness. Okay. One thing that we do as speakers, and Douglas also does, is make sure you create awareness, because once we create awareness, we can create that shift and that change. Yeah. Now, let's look at a couple of...
Lily, share that comment. That's a really good comment, because there's more to talk about on that just a little bit.
Yeah, so we've got Totka said, serving the right people, not everybody, really powerful.
Yeah, you run a business, not a babysitting service, right? You don't want to serve everybody, just the right people.
That's powerful. Run a business, not a babysitting service. That's amazing.
Yeah,
And
fire
then lead,
customers if they're headaches to you. But I love this idea of forecasting leads to success. Okay, so what is it that allows us to scale business? It's duplication, right? We're able to duplicate things that are working, and we start to either compress or get rid of or simplify things that are either complicated or get rid of things that are not working. So forecasting is one way that we have to measure what's working, and we need to be able to duplicate that. And I think that this is such a powerful point, and I thank Lily again for sharing it again. I don't think enough entrepreneurs spend time understanding how to build something that's duplicatable, right? I know you wanted to talk about passive income a little bit later, but would it be okay if I just jumped to showing something really kind of cool right now?
yes, please.
This is something that I think is kind of neat. And again, I apologize. I'm not the best artist in the world, but you'll get the idea. So here's you. Here's your customer, right? Okay, so let's just put that underneath so you can kind of understand. You and your customer, right? Well, the reality is maybe even to just share this story. When I first started in business, I'll never forget, I took a guy who was worth several $100 million to lunch. In fact, he's worth about 800 million. And as I took him to lunch, I brought my business plan. And at that time, I have to confess, I thought that thicker meant better. Right? So I tried to make the thickest business plan that I could. I added all kinds of graphs and charts. And when I brought it to him, I literally took it and boom, I set it down on the table to make it sound even heavier and bigger. And I'll never forget, he kind of looked at it just briefly. And then he said, "Where are your transactions?" And I kind of shrugged and I said, "Well, let me tell you about the customers we're going to serve." And I started describing the customers. He goes, "Well, where are your transactions?" Then I try to explain, okay, this is our marketing plan. This is what we're going to do. Again, he asked me final time, "Where are your transactions?" And then I try to explain something else. And he said, "You know what? Until you understand your transactions, you cannot ever create a business plan. You do not know who your customers are. You do not know what you need, et cetera, et cetera." And so here's what a transaction looks like. Okay. And this is, again, where most entrepreneurs miss it. You see, most entrepreneurs start a company because they have a dream. They focus on their passion. They focus on what they desire. And they miss it. By the way, just one other thing maybe I'll share before I show you that cool chart. With this idea of passion and purpose, so many gurus and business coaches have it wrong. They say if you focus on your passion and purpose, you'll be successful, right? Well, the reality is Warren Buffett once said, what you love about you is your hobby. What other people love about you is your business. So your passion and purpose, I'm sorry, this might sound mean, is irrelevant. The reality is your business, if you can actually find a way to see where you overlap in the middle with the passion and purpose of others, now you're on to something. And the reality is sometimes even in business, there will be times when it's tough and it's hard and it's going to be difficult, right? But if you know where that overlap is, then not only can you have that connection to get the profit, but when things are tough, you can receive validation from those who get you, your customers who understand you, your customers who value what you do, and they've got the same passion and purpose as you do, so they'll support you. So needless to say, let's go back to this idea of the transaction. This is a transaction. Your customer, this person here, is going to that end, give you money, right? And you as the company are going to give them one of these four things. They're the only things that you can sell. You can sell an asset, you can sell a service, you can sell information, or you can sell community. Those are the only things that you can really sell. So if we're looking at this now, again, you've got that. You've got to have that for your math. You've also got to have it for your diamonds. But if we're looking again where most entrepreneurs make the mistake is they don't know what occurs between. They don't really know how to create a business that starts becoming independent of themselves. So one of the things that I think is essential for everyone to do, and I'm just altering the diagram, is to start now identifying what steps need to take place so that the customer can give you their money, but you can also deliver them the asset, service, information, or community. Now, the interesting thing is these things that have to happen both ways, they really, from a business point of view, can be divided into three categories. And they are these. Let me just also do a quick drawing here. I apologize for this sloppy artwork, but they're divided into either tell, sell, or service. Everything that has to happen for the transaction will either be tell, sell, or service. In other words, how are people hearing about you? Which can include a function of marketing. It can include a function of word of mouth. It can include a function of brand recognition in the marketplace. Next, selling. How are people buying? How are the transactions taking place? When they're giving you money, are there things such as agreements that are needed? Are there salespeople? Is there a sales cycle and process that needs to be developed? Do you have collection processes? Or is there payment options? And lastly, for service, how does that transfer? Now, the interesting thing that most people miss, especially as entrepreneurs, is they can never scale because they try to do all of those elements. So the question that you need to ask, and I'm just getting a new color here, is let's say, for example, on the tell category, how can you take one of those things and delegate it now to someone else, right? And by the way, when we systematize things, there's only two ways you can do it. You can either automate or delegate. There's no other option, right? So how are you either delegating to someone else or automating it? Now, when it comes to selling, if you can get rid of that too, all of a sudden you notice that there's much less for you to do, right? And the more of these that you can get rid of, the more that income stream starts to become passive, right? If there's only one thing for you to do to get paid, it's extremely passive. And I think this is a big misunderstanding about passive income, is it's not just whether it's active or passive income. It's like a continuum. There's degrees. And there's certain times in your life where things will be more active as you're starting it and you're building the systems and you're testing them. And then there's other times where it's going to be much more passive because you've got the systems built and you can put people now to do the jobs that you don't want to do, right? Now, I have to admit, it gets really exciting when you start systematizing things, because now all of a sudden you don't have to worry about carrying all the load yourself. And that's the blessing. I mean, what a wonderful thing it is that, you know, when you've got a system and you can all of a sudden grab your phone and you can see, hey, I'm not here, but I've made money. Right? In fact, one of my favorite experiences that happened to me is a handful of years ago. I was Christmas shopping for my family, and I spent quite a bit of money. And in fact, probably around 10 grand is what I'd spent. And I paused, I sat down, I opened my phone and I looked at my bank and I saw that there was no money missing. There was still 10, like that whole 10 grand was there. So I got really panic stricken thinking, oh no, did they not bill my card at these stores? Like, what happened? Did I get all this stuff for free? Like, that's theft, and karma rewards thieves in terrible ways. So I didn't want to be that. And so I thought, what's going on? And so I looked more carefully at my bank statement, and I'd actually made $10,000 while I was shopping. So it flushed out, it evened out. But that happens because we work for ways to replace ourselves. And I think that that's a really important business understanding. You need to identify what those systems are and how you can replace yourself. And that also allows you to duplicate later.
I'm writing that down. Work for ways to replace yourself.
That's your job. In fact, I have people all the time that I when I'm coaching them, I say this to them. I say, ask me, what do you do for a living? And they say, Doug, what do you do for a living? And I say, as little as possible, and I delegate the rest. Because that's the job of an entrepreneur. You're on a constant mission, not looking for customers. No, that's the wrong idea. You're not looking for customers. You're looking for ways to replace yourself. Mm-hmm. And one of them is to look for people who already have your customers. In fact, when we did my movies, like I've done 4 of the top personal development films, I've always partnered with people who already have customer bases. So, for example, when we did The Opus, we've got Jack Canfield, Mark Victor Hansen, Joe Vitale, John DeMartini, Marcy Shimoff, all the big ones. When we did The Treasure Map, we've got John DeMartini and Marshall Silver and all these guys. When we did The Gratitude Experiment, we got Bob Proctor and John Gray. And when we did the newest film, How Thoughts Become Things, we grabbed a bunch of those guys. So we've got a combined database of 38 million loyal fans. You know what? I've been selling this movie ever since, and I really haven't had to go look for customers. So how can you do the same, right? How can you work with, and you use the word influencers. Well, again, you don't need the guy with the most subscribers. You need the guy with the subscribers that are engaged and trust him, that if he said, come and buy this, that they're going to all do it. Mm-hmm. And to tell you the truth, do you need 100,000 followers? Do you need 1 million followers? No. If you've got something, let's just say you're selling it for $997, and you've got a guy with 100 loyal followers that every one of them is going to buy. If you get onto his podcast, you're going to make 100 grand. So we always are on the hunt for quality, not for quantity. Quantity is a myth. And the reality is here's a funny story. This is a good laugh. I've got close to the limit on Facebook. I've been to that 5,000 a few times, and then I've gotten rid of some people. But I was at an event lately, just prior to COVID, and I met this really cool guy, like super cool entrepreneur businessman. And I'm always coaching entrepreneurs, and I'm looking for coaches to bring into our program to connect with the high level people. And I met this guy, and he was just awesome. And he's like, yeah, I want to be one of your coaches. I want to connect with all your top achievers. I want to go out and share this because I'm a business coach, and being an entrepreneur coach would be perfect for me. And so I said to him, I go, well, let's add each other on Facebook. And as we were looking on Facebook to add each other, well, suddenly we found that we were already friends. And so the reality is we all have these connections on social media that don't mean anything, right? I was already friends with this guy, and he didn't know about me. I didn't know about him. So it's not quantity that you're looking for. We don't want to find more people. In fact, here's an interesting way to look at it. When I was doing this work with the top achievers, I learned about something called the funnel effect. Okay, so what I've drawn here, again, terrible art, is a funnel, right? You see this funnel, right? We see funnels, we use them to pour liquid and all that stuff into, different containers and that kind of thing. But most people run their business like this. They say, if I can do more, right? Like if I can meet more people, do more things, if I can wake up earlier, if I can hustle, if I can grind, if I can be part of the 5 a.m. club, if I can stay up late, I'm going to get more. By the way, just a note on this hustle and grind. Anybody that tells you that, it's a clear indicator they have no idea what the heck they're talking about. It's not enough to hustle and grind. What are you doing in that time, right? Because busyness is not business. Yep. That's important, right? So here's the deal. I don't want you to do more. What I want you to do is actually draw some boundaries and do better. Find a select thing that you're really good at, and you'll do better with it. You don't want to do more. You just want to become an expert. In fact, we've got a saying that we use with our entrepreneurs that we teach them to teach the students they coach, and that's that mastery equals monopoly. So you're not trying to get good at a bazillion things. You're trying to get really good at a few things. And that's what's going to give you the level of mastery that people will now pay more and seek you out, right? The reality is I am, and I know this because of my interviews and connections with the top achievers, and I'm sorry if I don't sound humble in saying this, but I'm the best entrepreneur coach on the planet right now. I know that because I've got the best team, right? So I focus on that. I don't focus on going out and find people to coach. They'll find me if I focus on being the best. And so I've gone out, and on my team, I've got like the founder of UGG Boots, the founder of Reebok, the founder of, co-founder of Ted Baker. I've got the co-founders of Kajabi. I've got, like, you name it. They're all in my pocket as my support network. So of course we're the best. No one can compete with that. So what are you doing to become the very best at what you do? And by the way, here's another thought that's totally incorrect that so many gurus are teaching. They say, if you want to be good at something, you need to step out of your comfort zone. Definitely not true. There's so many things that I'm not comfortable with. I don't like filing my own taxes. I don't like being my own bookkeeper. I don't build my own websites. I'm not my own graphic artist. I'm not fill in the blank. I don't do my own dental work. I don't cut my own hair. Like, how stupid would that be? So instead of stepping out of your comfort zone, ask this. What is my brilliance zone? What am I really good at that no one else in my company can do that I need to be doing, right? When you find your brilliance zone, that's when you're on the way to fortune. That's when you're on the way to success. That's when you're on the way to mastery. Napoleon Hill said it earlier, but nobody seemed to catch that, is that the riches are in the niches, right? But the reality is most people try to go grand and broad, and they try to be generalizations. So you need to find, what is your brilliance zone? What is it in your company that you do that no one else can do? And anything else, you got to delegate the rest. Give it away, give it up so that you can be absolutely brilliant. Think about it this way. If you were a professional athlete, now I know we've got a lot of people in Europe, so football, European football is the big rage, okay? Can you imagine this? If you had a footballer who he was also in charge of collecting and laundering his uniform, booking his travel and accommodations, arranging a schedule for daycare for his kids, and everything else, and then he still has to show up and play the game, right? If you look at those kind of guys, their only job on game day is to play. That's it. Your job is to play. Don't worry about the uniform. It'll be there for you. It'll be in your locker. Don't worry about the accommodations. Get on the bus. We'll take you to where you need to go. Get on the plane. You'll get you to where you want to go. And that's the problem with so many entrepreneurs. They don't look at it as though this is their passion of the same way a sport person would, right? You've got to really understand what your level of brilliance is and give your focus there. Because if you split it, it's just like that whole idea of a magnifying glass. You'll never start a fire if you're trying to light up the neighborhood. It just doesn't work. So pick one. And by the way, that's the other thing too, is when we're coaching entrepreneurs, I don't judge my success on how many people I can serve. I think that's ridiculous. I judge my success on the difference I can make for one, right? If I can help one person this year get to 7 or 8 figures, that's my mission. I don't want to have my books say I serve 1,000 people. That's ridiculous. If I serve, it's kind of like, think of this. Think of, there's a room full of plants and you've got 1 glass of water. If you try to water every plant in the room with 1 glass of water, it's done. You're never going to have any success. But if you pick 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 plants to really take care of and nurture, you're going to be a rock star. And they'll tell their friends, right? So keep that in mind.
That's really powerful. Now let's look at some of our audience that put out some of your bombs, that because literally you threw out some huge bombs. Okay, so we've got Totka saying, where are your transactions? And this was really powerful. And then keeping going, only thing you can sell is assets, services, information, community. This was also so powerful. And then Totka and Lily were reminding what you said: automate or delegate. Don't try to be doing everything, like the example of the footballer. Try always to work and find your way to replace yourself. All right, that's really amazingly powerful. And then Lily saying, "Oh, this is mind-blowing." And thank you so much. Thank you so much. And what's your brilliance zone? And then mastery the richest. Mastery the richest is in the nichest. So this is what Napoleon Hill was talking about.
You know what? We'll give some of these away too. So if you guys want to come, these are T-shirts from Entrepreneur of Influence. It's one of our programs, but we'll give some of these away. I'll let you decide, Moses. I'll send it out to you, and you can give it to whoever you think needs it.
Amazing. Okay, we can do one day a lucky draw. Okay.
Oh yeah, we'll do that. And we've got lots of cool stuff we'll give away. Here's another book that I just wrote called Entrepreneur's Book of Secrets. So we got lots of fun things. Definitely next Thursday we'll give away a ton of stuff.
Now, I have 2 last questions to ask you, because now, I mean, we have so much blown up our minds that now I need to decide what to ask you, because there are so many things I would like to ask you. 2 major things. I would like you to, you spoke a little bit about it, about the movie productions, okay? What is the outcome behind that? What led you to become a producer? So from an entrepreneur to become a producer, and a producer in the self-development industry.
Wow. Okay. So that's kind of a funny story. The reality is when I was in the 2nd grade, like a little kid, I was an extra in a television show. So I acted in it. It was fun. And I kind of got bit by this idea of getting involved in film and TV. So again, I didn't know about personal development. I just knew about that. And so growing up, I did quite a few films. In fact, I even did stunt work in some films. One of my passions is I'm actually a mixed martial artist, like competitive mixed martial artist. And I've got medals and things for competing and all that. So I've always loved that movie stuff. But the reality is acting in other people's movies is really tough and highly competitive. So I didn't think I would ever be able to become an actor. Plus, I'm not the tallest guy. I'm probably not the best looking. So I always thought I'll never maybe be a movie star after I started seeing what it really took. But once I started interviewing the top 400 achievers, I thought there needs to be a movie about this, where people can share, like, if you could sit and learn from, say, for example, Howard Putnam, the former CEO of Southwest Airlines, how he did it, or with the Marriotts, how they launched the Marriott hotel line. And I mean, all these people that I've had a chance to learn from. So I wanted to make a movie. And so I talked to somebody about that, and they said, well, you know what, that's a great idea, but we just don't know where we would put it. Like, is this a how-to video, or is it a documentary, or like, what is it? And they said, well, we don't really know. So needless to say, I kept, again, speaking and meeting some incredible people. And all of a sudden, this movie, The Secret, came out that everybody heard about. And so now it was the hottest thing. And I had this guy literally call me back, and he said, remember you talking about that movie with all these people? I think we now know where to put it. Like, if you go to a video store or whatever, now we know what section it belongs in. Would you like to do your movie? And so for this one, this was our first one. I happen to know all the people from The Secret. They were all friends of mine. So I called them and I said, would you come and want to do a movie with me? So this one, we've got Jack Canfield and John DeMartini and Joe Vitale and Marcy Shimoff and all those people. And it was super, super well received. It came out, in 2008. So after The Secret had come out. I'll also show you something kind of fun. After it came out, and I'll just grab as many as my hands will grab. Random House then picked it up as a book, and they put it out in 23 languages. This is the Italian DVD. This is the German one. Here's the audio book. Here's another one. Here's Spanish, right? So I don't know. I think that's Polish. They just put it out in a variety of languages around the world. And so it was super well received. Like, it just went everywhere. And so I decided I love this idea of making these movies, and I enjoyed it. And it obviously helped my speaking career dramatically. And so I just felt like there was more to share. So after that movie came out, when I was interviewing the top achievers in the world, one thing that I found that a lot of success people never ever talk about, especially in business, is the principle of gratitude. So I did a second movie on gratitude. This one, we brought back Bob Proctor, John DeMartini, Marie Diamond, John Gray, who wrote the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. So that was good for us. And then we actually did the treasure map, which talked about money. And in here, I've got people like Laurel Langmeyer, John DeMartini's back, and many others. Stefan Arnio, who's since passed away, one of the top real estate guys in the world. And so that did really, really well. And then we did a fourth one called How Thoughts Become Things. And you can actually find that right now, How Thoughts Become Things, film.com. And in that one, we've got Bob Proctor back, Dennis Waitley, Joe Vitale, John DeMartini, John Ostroff, Marie Diamond, Bob Doyle, all from The Secret, and a few other really big names too. And the cool thing is that movie came out just as the pandemic was really kind of reaching a climax. And so this idea of our thoughts, especially in a negative situation like the pandemic, we feel like that movie's really done a lot of good for people. And that film has actually now outsold The Secret 3-1, but we're still going. So The Secret kind of came out in 2006 and it started hitting its peak in about 2007, 2008. So we're beating the original numbers of The Secret when it came out for the first year. And the book for that one comes out, I'm trying to remember the publisher, it's Waterstone Publishing, I think. Later this year, it comes out through them as well. So we have fun with these movies, but I also believe that one of the best ways to learn is movies. We all love entertainment, and it's a bit different. Like, I love doing live seminars because I can connect with the energy of the people. But with a movie, I can add in music, and I can add in story, and I can add in costumes, and I can add in other elements that really kind of help us to mentally anchor the lesson film deeper. And so
because you catch up with different sensories.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I've got, funny enough, I've just signed a deal to do 4 more movies. And one of them will be really focused on entrepreneurs. So I've got a lot of really cool stuff we're working on now. But I've also got a few other things that are coming too that I can't really talk about. But I will soon.
Top secret.
Have me back one of these days. I'll talk more about that.
All right. Now, my final question, because we are wrapping up now, my final question is, you have behind yourself there, you've got something which talks of certified entrepreneur coach.
Yes.
Would you like to tell us more about this?
Yeah,
please?
well, here's the deal: is I've been coaching entrepreneurs for years, and the thing is there's a really big difference between a traditional business owner and an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship is literally changing the world right now. People are not operating in traditional business ways. We're no longer sort of local networking, running by business hours, etc., because we're so connected online and elsewhere that really you can have customers and support services for your company anywhere. So everyone is shifting towards being an entrepreneur. And because of what happened during 2020, many people also lost their traditional jobs. They were let go or downsized. And there was a statistic that I recently read that said in the year 2020, there were more than 548 million new entrepreneurs. That's literally 1.5 million new entrepreneurs every single day. So this is going to be a big coaching area. So what I did is I actually, because I'm tied still to all the top achievers that I interviewed, I reached out to them and I said, if I were to train people to coach entrepreneurs, would you be willing to be on my faculty and help? So I've got people, again, like the founders of FedEx, Nike, Reebok, the Avita Group, Christian Dior, Jordache Jeans, Gitano Sports, where California's interest, Nike, Reebok. Like, it goes on forever. I've got like almost 400 of the world's top leading entrepreneurs as our faculty members. So we built a curriculum that will help all entrepreneurs. The other thing that we did is I'm not trying to criticize people that are out there coaching, but I find that a lot of times, because coaching is such a low barrier to entry, almost anyone can call themselves a coach. So with our coaches, we wanted to have a certification where people actually go through a training, and at the end, they're actually tested, and they have to reach a certain level of competency in order to go out and work with someone. If you think about it, this is someone's business, it's their life, it's their livelihood, and it's their family's money. So we need to make sure that the coaches are of a high enough level. Now, the other thing that I did, which is I think probably even most important, is I've gone and I've trademarked and I've copyrighted and I've got legal protection out around every term: certified entrepreneur coach, entrepreneur consultant, entrepreneur trainer, all of those. And so we're going to protect that vigorously. And so if someone's out there and they're coaching entrepreneurs, and if they're using that term, we're going to shut them down. In fact, first, we're going to invite them to come and partner with us to learn properly how to help an entrepreneur. But if they're out there just kind of causing ruckus in the marketplace, we don't want that. That hurts too many people, right? And so we're looking for people right now who do want to be trained as coaches with us. Obviously, you get access to the same people that I learned from, which is really an incredible thing. Can you imagine now standing up at a business networking event? Somebody stands up and says, I'm an entrepreneur or a business coach. And people are like, okay, well, whatever, you've been in business 2 years, you built a 6-figure business, congrats. And then the person next to them stands up and says, I'm an entrepreneur coach. And this morning I just got off the phone with the founder of UGG Boots. And this is what he told me the trends are for the next quarter. And I just got off the phone with the marketing director of Uber. And this is what they say on how you build a startup. And by the way, I just got off the phone with some venture capitalists, and we've got access to about 100 million that we're going to be funding small businesses and startups this year. Who do you think that entrepreneur will want to learn from? Right? So we've got an opportunity unlike anything else. And the crazy thing is our phones are going off the hook. Our emails are going off the hook with people right now that want entrepreneur coaching, because there's just so many people becoming entrepreneurs. So right now I'm looking for coaches. We're looking for coaches desperately right now. And we're excited because this is the way of the future. The entrepreneur, it's called revolution, is here. This is the future. So, for people joining us, they're literally on the beginning of a tidal wave. So if that's something that interests you, reach out to us. The domain name where you can come and just, connect with us is simply certifiedentrepreneurcoach.com.
Yeah. So how can people get in touch with you, follow you? Is it Facebook or the website you're just telling us right now?
The best is come join us at certifiedentrepreneurcoach.com. The reality is I'm a little different than maybe many of the speakers out there. I do post stuff on social media and I do share a lot of free content out there. But the reality is most people who are sharing free content do so because they're trying to find customers, right? The reality is we got so many people knocking on our door that I'm actually trying to find partners. So I'm not sharing content on every platform like everyone else does. Instead, we're selectively looking at people who want to partner with us because we've already got too many customers. We need to get people we can share them with. And I might mention that with the Entrepreneur Coach program, we've also got a variety of magazines and podcasts and media that are partnering with us. Some of the highest level organizations like Entrepreneur Success Magazine. I just did a deal this morning with Entrepreneur Life Magazine. And so our coaches also will get the opportunity to write for those organizations, which adds to your marketplace positioning. So it positions you as a leader because you're now going to be also recognized as a contributor to some of the biggest entrepreneur outlets out there. So again, if this is your forte, if you're someone that's been coaching business owners and you want to get to the next level, if you're somebody that wants to have connections to these high achievers that I've talked about, if you're somebody that literally, I believe we're sitting on a multi-million-dollar opportunity. So if you want to come and join us for that,
well, potentially it's a multi-billionaire industry.
I believe it is, but I'm talking about for you personally. But you're going to pay your pocket as one of our coaches. And the reality is, we've got some of our coaches that are doing 7 figures easily, right? It's just that kind of marketplace right now where there's so many people wanting correct information on how to build a business, right? And that's what's lacking is the correct information. There's so many coaches and people with ideas that they're just kind of flying by the seat of their pants and they're not doing a lot of good. So as you can imagine, when you come to the table and you've got something that really works and you've also got those connections in that network are so important. And let's be honest, I mean, if you got access to venture capital, people like to hear about that too. So we've just got such a unique combination that our coaches really are just thriving, and we're so excited to work with them.
That's amazing. So Douglas, really, thank you so much. And please make sure you share this live, share this video to your community, and don't miss Thursday. Thursday, he's going to give us an amazing workshop, and he has already declared it. He's going to give away some things, and we will find the best way to deliver it all to all of you. Okay. So Douglas, as we are literally wrapping up and closing up, I would like to ask you 3 things that you'd like to leave us with our audience, 3 tips from your experience, from your life, from your personal inside of you, 3 tips that can change and transform the life of our audience. And go on, please.
So I think one of the first things I would mention is you always hear people saying you've got to think big, right? But what's the thing that keeps us from thinking big? It's that we feel like we're now responsible to create it. So I want to make that, again, that we talked about, it's not up to you. The reality is think big and then find the people. Think big and then find the people to execute it. It's got nothing to do with you, right? And the more people that you can partner with and joint venture with at high levels, I mean, we're making millionaires with this program for the simple reason that people are joining a network. They're not coming in as individuals to try and do it all. So start thinking like that. You've got to surround yourself with people that will support what you're doing. That's probably number one when we're thinking big. I'm going to suggest that maybe the second thing is the opposite, to also think small. That we don't try to change the world. It's that old saying that how do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. So in other words, you need to look at how can I do extraordinary things right now where I stand. Don't wait for the lottery to be won for you to get started. Don't wait for the ideal client to show up to get started. I'll never forget one of my speaking events. Funny enough, there were only 3 people in the room, and the reason why is, again, one of my first events. There was a hockey final on the same night for playoffs, and I didn't know that was going to happen, so nobody came. They were all watching hockey, but I decided to present as best as I could, and those 3 people were actually the leadership of one of the biggest financial planning companies in Canada. So it turned into a multi-million-dollar contract for me. Now, the last thing that I think is also probably worth looking at, and I'll talk more about this idea maybe when we meet on Thursday, but success really requires 2 things. 1, a correct strategy. You've heard people like Tony Robbins talk about how if you've got the wrong strategy, like if you want to see a sunset and you're running in the opposite direction, it doesn't matter how fast you run, you'll never see it. So you need a correct strategy, right? Like if you're going to be a top business coach, a top business leader, what I did is I actually formed the relationships with people who build multi-million and multi-billion-dollar companies. So correct strategy was something that I needed. But it's not enough to have that. The other part of that is what I call the willingness factor. And that's how do we approach it? You see, you can give someone the best tools in the world, but if they're not willing to do something about it, it doesn't matter, right? You can give them even $1 million, but if they're not willing to go pick it up and put it into their bank account, it doesn't matter. So that idea of willingness, what will you do with the information that you receive, right? And if we look at the low willingness end, there's people that, they have to do things. If you think a teenager, he has to clean his bedroom. His mother says, clean your room. Well, he does it grudgingly and, he doesn't have a lot of willingness, but it gets done. But at a crappy level. At those levels of low willingness, there's always less opportunity, less money, less quality of relationship. Everything is less. But at the high end of willingness, we all know people who are excited. They take action. They do it quickly. They get involved. They're there. They show up 100%. And they sometimes give far more than ever expected. And they even anticipate things before they happen. And they're proactive. Well, those are the people who actually make all the money. Those are the people that get all the opportunities. Those are the people that have the best relationships. Those are the people where everything goes well. And if you don't believe me, for those of you that are a husband or a wife, husbands, next time you see there's laundry to be done or the floor to be swept or mopped, don't wait for your wife to ask you. Be proactive on that far end of willingness. I promise you, if you do all these kind of things before she has to ask, look what your rewards will be. But if you're on the other end and you're grudging and you hold back and you have to be asked and you have excuses, take a look at those rewards. Proof is in the pudding, folks.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Spot on, spot on, spot on once again. So Final thanks. Thank you so much, Douglas, for being with us right now today. And we are so excited and waiting for Thursday. Thursday, the stage is going to be yours. You're going to come here and you're going to serve us, serve our audience. And we know that you are not going to spare anything. You're going to give 150% of who you are, what you know, and what you can give us. Thank you once again. It was our privilege for us to have you and our honor for us to have you right here with us today. And guys, each one of you follow Douglas Vermeeren. You can find him on social media, or you can just search on Google and find the Certified Entrepreneur Coach. And more on Thursday when we'll be all live back again for the amazing workshop with Douglas. My name is Moses, and I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to make sure that you live that outstanding life that you are created to live and you are designed to live, and create and design also that business. And as we have seen today with Douglas, it's possible for you. Not only it's possible, I believe it has to be also your mandatory necessity to reach that outcome and live your full life. Thank you so much, all of you who have watched us, and see you on Thursday. Thank you, Douglas. Thank you so much.
And thank you for everybody for participating. We appreciate you.
See you all on Thursday. See you, Douglas, and see all of you on Thursday. Thank you so much. We have a last comment from Steve Bieber on LinkedIn, and he's saying, very interesting and thought-provoking. Thank you. You're very welcome, Steve. Thank you for joining us. See you on Thursday for an amazing workshop with Douglas. See you all. Ciao.